There are a lot of claims online that various services are honeypots or contain secret backdoors. Most of these claims are based only on circumstantial evidence, if any evidence at all, but it's not hard to see why people would believe these stories. Governments have done exactly this sort of thing in the past and continue to do so even to this day. This is the story of Bullrun, the National Security Agency's probably ongoing effort to have eyes into every single digital service on the planet and how you can defend yourself against it. Last year, we put out a video about the Clipper chip. When encryption started to become more common, the US government tried to propose that everyone use a hardware-based encryption mechanism that they claimed would only allow the good guys to have backdoor access to bypass the encryption. Only the good guys, and only in case of emergency. They argued that this would be essential to helping stop crime and keep people safe. But a cybersecurity expert was able to prove that the proposed solution was easily bypassed, proving both that it was accessible to more than just the good guys, and that it wouldn't stop crime since criminals could just work around it anyways. To the NSA, this was a huge defeat in the so-called crypto wars. Unfortunately, governments and big tech companies rarely just accept defeat and move on. Instead, they regrouped. Almost immediately, the NSA began to come up with a new plan. They called this initiative Bullrun after the first major battle of the United States Civil War. Bullrun was not a single project, but rather it was a series of tactics all united under the same umbrella by their overarching goal: to defeat encryption and give the NSA eyes into anything they wanted. Bullrun operated on 4 main strategies to accomplish this. The most obvious strategy was simply to hack things. But to their credit, they went about it in a clever way. Rather than hacking specific apps, hardware, or software, they focused instead on hacking universal standards like SSL, VPNs, and 4G or LTE cell networks. This way they could get access into the basic protocols running multiple products and services at the same time. Very efficient. At the time Bullrun was revealed to the public, it was believed that the NSA had cracked at least 50% of encrypted internet traffic by cracking the RC4 protocol that underpinned SSL. The UK's version of Bullrun, called Edge Hill, had cracked 30 VPNs, with the goal of cracking 300 total. This brute-forcing method was probably a last resort though, since the NSA took a lot of other approaches to gaining access. Their most popular and surprising method at the time was probably to cut deals directly with companies. Bullrun's budget was about $250 million a year, and one of the major stated goals in the leaked budget request was to, quote, actively engage the US and foreign IT industries to covertly influence and/or overtly leverage their commercial products' designs, with the goal of ensuring that their products were exploitable. One of the most famous and well-documented examples is when they paid $10 million to the cybersecurity company RSA to convince them to make the dual EC DRBG algorithm the default for their BSafe encryption software. This algorithm was used in random number generation, which is a crucial step in generating encryption keys. However, it also contained a hidden vulnerability that allowed those who knew about its existence to easily create copies of encryption keys it generated, thus secretly giving that person access to the encrypted data. But it seems that the NSA was not afraid to play dirty if bribes failed. The leaked documents revealing Bullrun's existence talked about HUMINT, or human intelligence, a term typically used by spies to refer to people and sources that they recruit in other countries or companies that they're targeting. Some of the articles covering this story when it first broke suggested that the NSA had potentially threatened Microsoft executives with fines or even jail time if they didn't give the NSA pre-encryption access to Microsoft services like Outlook, Skype, and SkyDrive, which is now known as OneDrive. None of the journalists ever gave a full list of companies the NSA pressured, so we can never know for sure exactly what companies were compromised and by which means. The journalists probably didn't even have a full list themselves. Regardless, the impact of these revelations went deep, causing paranoia and distrust that last even to this day. For example, the Linux kernel added additional security layers in an effort to counteract any possible backdoors in the Intel RDRAND hardware that they used to generate their own security features, while FreeBSD moved away from RDRAND entirely. Perhaps the most extreme thing that the NSA did was interdiction, or attempting to intercept hardware before it reached the recipient to plant personalized backdoors. This is different than the NSA's efforts to work with companies. Those were mass, indiscriminate backdoors in all models of a product line that impacted everyone, while these were specific individual devices and focused on targeted individuals. This is the part of Bullrun we have the least information about, and it's unclear if that's because the NSA did it so rarely or if it was simply overshadowed by other, more alarming revelations. The only incident journalists reported on was that the government became aware that a foreign intelligence target had ordered a new computer, so they contacted the American manufacturer, who agreed to insert a backdoor before shipping it. It seems unlikely that the NSA wouldn't have done this more than once, though. If interdiction was the NSA's most extreme tactic, this final one was their most nefarious. The NSA purposely pushed to influence and implement public standards for mass adoption that they knew were weak. The most famous of these is the aforementioned dual EC DRBG algorithm. This algorithm was one of several standards proposed in the late 90s, and the National Institute of Standards and Technology adopted it as an approved standard in 2006, meaning that it was recommended and considered safe for governments and businesses to use. The backdoor that I mentioned earlier was actually spotted by experts as soon as dual EC was published, but it was approved anyways without addressing the vulnerability. And NIST never said why. It would later be revealed that the NSA had influenced dual EC and inserted said backdoor. In fact, the documents released claimed that the NSA was not just a contributor to the algorithm, but at some point had become, quote, the sole editor. The documents didn't reveal or specifically name any other standards that the NSA had successfully influenced, but the budget request for that fiscal year did explicitly state that that was one of the strategies that the NSA used, and the NSA is well known for offering expert opinion on various cryptographic topics, standards, and proposals. So it's pretty much guaranteed that this was not the only time they did this. Some articles even suggest that the NSA may have influenced VPN protocols like IKE or IPsec to weaken them, just like dual EC, which could explain how they were able to compromise certain VPNs. In a moment, we're going to tell you why this situation isn't hopeless and how to counter every single one of these attacks. But if you're getting value out of this video, consider supporting Privacy Guides. Privacy Guides is a community-driven nonprofit dedicated to providing the best impartial advice on the internet about how to protect your privacy and digital rights. You can keep us going by signing up for a membership at privacyguides.org/donate or picking up some merch at shop.privacyguides.org. When faced with these kind of stories, it can be really tempting to go in one of two directions: nihilism or paranoia. On the one hand, it's really easy to feel hopeless and overwhelmed. I mean, what can we do when the government is secretly planting backdoors in the deepest layers of tech, engaging in mass hacking, and forcing companies to comply at gunpoint? On the other hand, it's just as easy to feel like nothing and no one can be trusted, that the truth simply hasn't been revealed yet. But things aren't as dark as they seem. It's important to note that the NSA can't hack everything. When discussing Bullrun, Edward Snowden insisted that properly implemented encryption still works and can be trusted. The NSA's own budget request clearly noted that they still had a long way to go to get access to many other systems and standards, and even the UK only had 1/10 of the VPNs cracked that they wanted to. Clearly, they are not the all-seeing eye that they sometimes seem like. It's also worth noting that almost as soon as the dual EC standard was proposed, experts immediately noticed the backdoor and called the alarm. In fact, because of this, many organizations opted to use other NIST-approved standards that weren't backdoored, which is probably why the NSA had to bribe RSA in the first place. The NSA employs some of the world's best hackers, and their hidden backdoors still got spotted almost instantly thanks to the transparency of open standards. Furthermore, in the aftermath of the 2013 revelations, many companies began to step up their cybersecurity efforts. Even companies that had complied with the NSA before felt that, in light of Snowden's whistleblowing, they'd been lied to about various facets of their cooperation. Maybe they felt that they were promised better safeguards, or they didn't realize the extent of the NSA's activities. Either way, a lot of them began to implement better security practices that even the NSA would likely struggle to get through. Finally, it's just plain statistically impossible and economically unfeasible for the NSA to bribe every single company and intercept every single device that gets shipped, especially on a budget of $250 million. All this just reinforces the advice that we've been giving for years. Try to stick to open source software. Look for services that have been audited by reputable third-party experts and publish those audits publicly. Switch to companies who have a strong reputation for protecting your data and privacy by doing things like storing data on your devices, limiting data collection to only what's required, or encrypting your data so that the company can't access it. Encrypt everything you can, ideally using open source, audited, reputable tools. None of these strategies, even combined, can guarantee that any given tool is 100% secure, private, or perfect, but they certainly increase the odds that you're using things that the NSA hasn't been able to compromise yet in one form or another. We know that Bullrun is just one of the efforts that government agencies like the NSA use to try to get eyes into everything. The Vault 7 leaks talked about how the CIA considered hacking into phones to bypass signals encryption. And the Crypto AG scandal revealed that the CIA owned a company that sold backdoor networking hardware, such as routers, to foreign governments. Whether these efforts are part of Bullrun or something new is unclear, but it shows that either way, nothing has fundamentally changed with how the US government does business. Still, we are not powerless to defend ourselves or even fight back. When Phil Zimmermann announced the Z phone, an encrypted phone technology, NSA employees discussed the news via an internal email thread titled, "This can't be good." Just as with PGP, the Clipper chip, and countless other times, governments are not unstoppable, inevitable juggernauts. They too are bound by the laws of math, science, physics, and encryption.